15 minutes, and of course we'll cover that live here on MSNBC. Joining me now is Congressman Joe Sestak of Pennsylvania. He's a three-star admiral and the highest-ranking former military officer elected to Congress. Congressman, under bad circumstances, it's good to have your expertise on this with us tonight. This is, if you could speak to just how horrific this is for the community of Fort Hood and how shocking this is. They have had their sense of tragedy, obviously, with deployments and whatnot, and also there have been suicides at Fort Hood, but this one is just unbelievable and just inexplicable. How do you see it?
It's our military families. Our hearts go out to them, and it's a shame that a tragedy like this has to place them in a spotlight. Our military families, less than 1/3 of 1% of our nation's families have been directly involved in this war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're in uncharted territory because this is the most frequent of deployments, the most stressed and longest wars we have had in our nation's history, and they have borne it. The U.S. Navy, we used to have on our commissary bags a wonderful saying that said, Navy spouse, hardest job in the military. For them to have their loved ones go to the war, survive and come home, and then often come home where still the proper care and isn't always there, or else this mental challenge sometimes treated as a closet disease. In my opinion, this is something that I just hope we keep foremost in our mind, these families who gave so much to our nation.
Admiral, Congressman, you have given so much to this country. I can tell that you're emotionally taken by this today. You've spent so many years, 30 years, 3 decades in the military, have served this country in an unbelievable fashion. And I would imagine that many who have served are going to feel heartbroken over this tonight. The stress on the families is immense. This deployment, this war has been going on. Is there anything that the military should be looking at? Is there anything they could do to prevent this? As you say, we're in uncharted territories, and it's, I think, noteworthy that Senator Kate Bailey Hutchinson, in an interview tonight, said that this shooter was apparently on the verge of being deployed to the Middle East and had made some negative comments about deployment. How do military officers handle that kind of conversation when they hear it going around?
Look, every officer enlisted, everyone's a human being, and mental challenges, and we know that upwards of 20% of our troops that do come home have post-traumatic stress disorder or some disorder associated with PTSD. Usually officers tend to talk privately among themselves because they are the leaders, along with our non-coms in charge of the enlisted. But that said, with the families, it becomes much more obvious. But there are some things we have to do better. For example, back in 2005, even forward deployed, we had a mental or behavioral health expert for every 350 troops. Today in Iraq, we're down to 1 for every 750. We are actually having to prescribe certain drugs, as we hadn't had to do in the past. If there's anything we have to do is when we know such a large percentage is coming home with a mental challenge, and we don't know what caused this, but in the larger sphere of what my concerns are, because on Philadelphia VA Hospital during December through January and February, I went 4 times to visit with the mental health and other doctors there on this issue, to what we can do better. But what we can do better is if we knew 20% of our soldiers were coming home with a kidney disease, we would not give them a self-referral. How do you feel? We would have kidney disease specialists in confidence talking with them to see what we might do. There's much more that can be done for the families also. The general in charge of Fort Hood, I know last June, actually said no one's to work on a weekend in order to ease the stress unless he personally approves it. And the Marine Corps has a wonderful program where they're trying to help families come together. But this is one of the tragedies of war. And if there is money to be spent in terms of taking care of your troops, it's not just for an extra bullet. It's for this, to prepare the families as our members come home, and then to bring them together, not always at the VA, but in their communities, where sometimes outside the base they're living, and they feel as though a local doctor they might be more at ease with and confident with. In confidence, that is.
Congressman, do you think that this is going to maybe increase the mental evaluation and the stress that our troops are under, not only abroad but here at home, because of what happened?
Yes, it's unfortunate, but often tragedies tend to refocus attention in a very busy life. We do it in our families, we do it in our military, we unfortunately sometimes, often in Congress. But that said, we've known about this, and we have appropriated in the last 2 years $10 billion. My visit with the VA those months was how well are we executing that money? For example, NIH has billions of dollars they put into neuroscience every year. I had an amendment in, and the Senate took it out in the conference, that merely said, let's combine NIH research with the billions we put into the Department of Defense to bring both the civilian and the military side together, and how to better take care of trauma, mental trauma. There's so much more we can be doing.
Congressman, we got to run. Congressman Joe Sestak, former admiral, I appreciate your time tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
You have been watching.